Hello, thank you for joining us for the penultimate session, not just of Design Talks, but of this season's Top Drawer. So thank you for staying the course and for joining us. We're here to ask the question, is experiential design the future? I won't do half as good a job of introducing our speakers as they will themselves, so if you could perhaps say a few words about yourself and what it is that you do.
My name is Burles, and I run a design agency called Run for the Hills with my husband and business partner, and we do a mixture of hospitality, bars, restaurants, cinemas and residential design.
I'm Melita. I run Double Decker with my business partner Willem Finger. We run Double Decker for 11 years now, and what we do, we are a curating team, and we curate artwork collections for hotel spaces and cruise ships, and we also we create F&B identities, so visual identities for restaurants, bars, spas within the spaces we curate. And we are an international team, and we work with projects of different scale.
My name is Faik. I'm the editor of Hospitality Interiors. I am a luxury travel journalist. I do have the best job in the world. I also work with Forbes. I advise Forbes Travel Guide on star ratings for their properties. And I'm an editor, as I said, from Hospitality Interiors.
Great, so let's start by unpacking the title a little bit. So what does experiential design mean to each of you, and perhaps beyond your own work, can you think of a project out there that really embodies it?
Well, before I came to interior design, I was an event designer, and I also worked in guerrilla marketing, doing those kind of pop-up experiences. So I used to do experiential marketing, and I think it's the same for interiors, really. It's where a space in some way engages you beyond possibly just looking great. It can either tell you a story, it provokes a feeling or an emotion. There's something that takes you into the otherness of that space.
And are there any particular projects at the minute that you think really
there's a
embody
few.
that?
If I look back in the day, I think Sketch, when it first opened, was massive. You walk into any of those WC pods, it's an experience, isn't it? It's talkability. There's an amazing, lovely restaurant in downtown New York called Blanchette, and you just feel that you're transported into a French colonial era. There's loads of different amazing spaces, aren't there? I wrote, actually, Hakkasan is the smell. I remember from Hakkasan being transported. So it's all of the senses, isn't it, really? And then the other one would be maybe the Barbary. Really small, tiny, challenging, awful space to design in lots of ways. But when you're sat at that bar, you're just in the heart of what it is. The food, the cooking, the chefs, their world, their arguments, their telling you what's in there.
I love
do you know
that
what I mean?
place.
It just is an experience, isn't it?
For us, it's usually the experience, the bigger experience that belongs to the interior designers who create the atmosphere for us to kind of boost a little bit the experience. And I think artwork recently started playing a very significant role to the overall experience, and it works as a connecting tissue between the guests and the surroundings. It's very important to kind of make pieces that the guests will remember after the visit in the hotel. And one of the very interesting projects we're working now is the 25-hour hotels in Dubai, which is I think it will be something that it will be a completely different experience from what we have seen in Dubai. It's a very 25-hour hotel identity, but the overall experience will be an add-on to the collection. And also, of course, Cunard, the cruise liner that we are also curating as a challenge, because every space needs to be a different experience, and these people spend days in the cruise ship, so you need to offer them experience through not only interior design, but also the artwork collection. It's a challenge for us.
The cruise ships is a perfect example. Celebrity Edge, which is a fairly new cruise ship. I was fortunate to be on one recently. Kelly Hoppen, interior designer, HBA out of Miami, so some superstar designers. And their idea, they want to take that 5-star property and put it out to sea. So the original cruise design is taken away. I would compare it to a Rosewood hotel, like a celebrity cruise ship. But it's just the different areas. The bar area could be like a scarf spa at the Rosewood Hotel. You wouldn't even realise you're out at sea. It's just that wow experience. And then when you go into the suites, 2-level suites, plunge pools in your suite on a cruise ship, which is never really been done before. So that would be quite a good one. I would use. Also, I've just come back from the new Hard Rock in Florida. Billions of pounds spent on it. It's shaped like a guitar. So it's middle of Florida. Again, that experience, it's like a Vegas hotel, but as soon as you walk in there, the bar, just the level of the service in the bar, the experience, the lighting, you just come away thinking, wow. I mean, the cocktails are amazing, but everything else about it is just, it blows you away. You wouldn't realise you're in this type of hotel. So it's just different restaurants. The Tack Room in New York, David Collins' studio designed that recently. Just beautiful, celebrity chef. Totally different experience. Again, it's in Hudson Yards. So there's quite a few. Langham Hotel. I was there before we come here. There's the Wigmore. It's a pub. It's in the Langham Hotel, 5-star hotel, one of the best hotels in the world. And you could take that pub and you could take it to you could take that area to the Cotswolds, and it would just fit in perfectly. So it just works as that experience. If you want a pub, that's a great pub to go to as a 5-star location.
Well, some great examples there. And of course, when it comes to experiential design, for me, there's almost two strands. There's the tangible and the intangible. So sticking a little bit with the latter, of course, design plays a massive role in creating mood. But how do you think design can be deployed to tell a story?
I think there are lots of ways. Obviously, the interior itself, if there's some heritage to the food, the brand, the drinks, the chef, who they are, their personality, you're bringing that to life, aren't you, as much? The menu can tell a story, imagery can tell a story, the tone of voice, how you know how to get to the toilets and how that's written and how they talk to you in that private space of the WCs. It's all transporting, isn't it? But it can really be evocative. So it's not just the look, it's often the branding, I think, how that's brought to life.
Everything is kind of works to support the branding, I believe, because, for example, artwork collections, they have, even if you can't really read every story from the moment you see it, what we usually do when we curate artwork collections is that we have stories behind that if you want to discover, you can, but the overall feeling tells you something, gives you some information and takes you to a place where you can, discover stories. It's very important. And of course, F&B identity, as you said, is a nice way to tell a story. And for us, this is what we are asked to do, always. What is the story behind of every piece? So, we try to have a nice thread between the pieces. Sometimes pieces jump into you and they tell you the story. Sometimes are a little bit more subtle. Depends always on the brand and the approach and the interior design.
Yeah, for me, when I review a hotel, the story starts on that arrival. As soon as you walk into that hotel, if you're in, let's say, Dubai, let's say the Burj Al Arab, as soon as you arrive into that hotel, you know you're in something which is very, very impressive. Just entering and the quality, the shops which are in a hotel, you'll have your Rolex and so on. So again, you can tell straight away they're going for that high-end traveller, the luxury traveller there. And then the experience as you move around the hotel, going up from the suites, the quality in the suites as well. I mean, the products they're using. I mean, everybody can put a bath out there or some brassware, but it's the quality of the brassware. It's that story of you using it to the right level. Obviously, they're charging a lot of money for these hotel suites. It's crazy. It's crazy, some of these places. But last night, a perfect example. I stay in normally just luxury properties. Yesterday, I stayed in a hotel called the Z Hotel. It's a brand in London. £80 for one night in Holborn. Okay, the room was 12 square meters. It was tiny. I walked in. You have the shower to the left-hand side, you have your toilet, you have a double bed, you have a sky, you have a big screen, a bottle of Shiraz, which was great. And I was like, is that for everybody? And they said, yeah, everybody who stays. It was £80. So that experience of walking into that hotel and seeing that for £80 was absolutely amazing. The same rate at a local hotel, 5-star, was £450. So it's telling the story of what you're paying for. It goes a long way. It just goes
I stayed in many a Z hotel. They also have a happy hour from 6 till 7. That's
right.
It's always worth checking out.
Free wine and cheese. Free wine and cheese.
Exactly. It's brilliant.
Couldn't believe it.
You can't beat it. And then, on the one hand, we want deeper experiences. but at the same time, we want the Instagram moments. We want that quick snap that says something about where we are. Are those two things at odds with each other? Is social media killing the sort of nuanced experience of design?
I'm a bit ambivalent. I don't know about you guys. I hate the fact that we're such slaves to our mobile phones. Absolutely hate it. And I think it stops us living life, experiencing beautiful architecture, an amazing space with people. However, I love taking photographs. I'm a creative, and your phones become your camera as well. So I do take those moments in restaurants and bars, and I take the details and finishes and things that just make me happy, or that I can just see that the designers poured lots of love into it. So I don't think they're incompatible. I think sometimes you just have to put it down and experience it.
For me, I think I need to be positive. That's, I need to be optimistic. So what I believe, and that's what we see at the studio, for us now there are two worlds to curate. There is a parallel world, which is called Instagram, and people live there, and everybody's happy and beautiful, and everybody's constantly on holiday, and everybody looks amazing. And there is reality where it's a hotel, that in the hotel lobby somebody might have a fight with a girlfriend, and things happen more, they happen. And we curate for both spaces. We have the Instagrammable pieces. They're there, they're really photogenic, and everybody can go and take pictures of them or with them. And of course, there's another collection that it's the 99%, because there are so many more pieces than the Instagrammable pieces. We can have some, the amount is more in the real world. So we care about the detail and the framing and how you print the artwork. So this is two different things. We see it as two different spaces. The Instagram space, which is again the hotel, but specific corners, and then the reality, which is...
I love that idea, actually, of designing for the idea of the hotel and then designing for the reality of the hotel as well. That's
when you curate an artwork collection, you need to do it because the client is waiting for you to show them the Instagrammable piece. But also you have to fill the space, and you have to say something nice, and you have to be real to your aesthetics and level of sophistication. So you have to deal with both worlds. So I see it as two worlds.
It's so relevant for you, of course, Chan, because you have your experience of the space, but then to cover it, it's...
I love Instagram. I'm a big fan of Instagram. Don't have that many followers though, but no, I love it. I find when I interview designers for the magazine and bits like that, I always ask them, what do the owners want when you're designing? And many owners want that Instagram image only for marketing. They want to be wowed for it. We all know there's many hotels out there. Let's say Four Seasons, George Cinq in Paris. Everyone has that lobby picture. It's you know straight away that's the lobby. Rosewood London, the rose gold lobby. That picture is seen absolutely everybody, so everybody knows that picture. The courtyard again at the Rosewood. Four Seasons, Corinthia, perfect example. You go into the Corinthia, into that lobby, the crystal lounge with the baccarat chandelier. That picture it's everywhere. When you see that, you know it's the Corinthia. So many owners, how I find, they want that Instagram picture because they're clever. They want it to show off continuously. Hotel I've just come back from called the Royal Champagne, Civil de Marge. It's a really stunning hotel. They built this hotel for the Instagram image, where every room looks out over the vineyard. There is not one bad picture that can be taken from that hotel. I mean, obviously the owner was very wealthy and he knew what he wanted, but I think Instagram's a big way. People will contact me and say to me, readers, absolutely love this, would like to book in, can you tell us more about it? Because obviously there's only so much you can say in a picture, which we'll come to in a bit, but yeah, I love it, absolutely love it.
But it sometimes feels that in order to cut through the noise, and we actually had a session back on Sunday of how to cut through the noise in such a competitive design landscape, but there's almost a competition now to be the most flamboyant, the most dramatic, because that's often what garners attention. I mean, we were talking just before this about Marcel Wanders, who's in a way the embodiment of a very brazen style of interior. Is it still possible to have an interesting experiential design that captures attention but is perhaps a little bit quieter in its approach?
I'd say there's the casual dining scene is probably getting that quite right. They don't have the budgets to go blockbuster, and they also don't necessarily want to do pure theatre, but they do need it to feel exciting, and for the food to be centre stage and the artistry behind the food to be centre stage. But really, at the bottom line, we found in all of our design projects, it doesn't matter how cool our design is, how much love we pour into it, that the food offer, the service offer, as in the people who run the restaurant and who live it and breathe it, it all has to come together. And when it does, it's really powerful. And actually, it can be quite quiet and understated. But the overall experience is amazing because the food, when it arrives, is just, people just want to talk to each other about it, explore it, try each other's, so then everything starts talking to each other. But it's the quality, really, isn't it, of everything.
And the level of sophistication, I would say. I mean, we have projects that, the interior designers have decided to go all the way, or the brand asks for it. It needs to be more street style, and it needs to be more screamy and more loud. And we have projects that are smaller hotels, higher level of sophistication, luxury, and they want a collection that doesn't really scream, but it might be more expensive than a hotel of 500 rooms. So for us, of course, we have to follow the vision of the interior designer, and we have to also, respect that. But the brand sometimes tells you what kind of art or collection you will have. And of course, F&B identities is the same thing. The concept comes first, and then I don't think that by screaming is the only way to kind of. I think there is a balance. People go for specific brands, so I think the guests can be covered by everything they want. That's the thing. We offer everything. Everybody offers everything.
For me, I would say, design, I'm all about design, but you're not going to go to a bar or a restaurant just because of the design. If you end up walking into a restaurant, yes, it's beautiful to look at and so on. If the service is off, you're not going to go back.
Go only for once.
You won't go back. Or if the food is off, you're not going to go back. I know many restaurants which, being honest, is not the best. In the toilets are right next to the kitchen, and you're looking, thinking, oh my God, but it could have amazing food. And then people are like, wow, okay, we're going to stay here. But one that I would say for design, so Nobu have a couple of restaurants in London. They have one at Old Street at the hotel there, and then they have one at the Metropolitan Hotel in Park Lane. So same menu, same price, Brad. The one in Park Lane is like an office. Okay, it's not pretty. The one in Old Street is absolutely stunning. They are losing customers from the Park Lane property all the way across to the other side, just because that restaurant is absolutely stunning. So that's one where I would say design is definitely key on that property.
And then I have a bit of a love-hate relationship with the word authentic. I think it's probably the most overused word in design of perhaps the past 5 years. But when it comes to experiences, how important is it to deliver something that feels authentic? And then for me, that also ties into a sense of place. So I was on a press trip over December to Tanzania, which was just incredible. And one of the hotels that we stayed in with Melita was.
I saw the pictures. The pictures look good.
Yes, I was boring everyone with lots of lion shots. But that hotel, as much as it was pleasantly designed, it had the most spectacular views across the Serengeti. You had herds of elephants walking past. And in that case, you could never really pick that up and put it somewhere else, because in a way, the design of the hotel is an irrelevance. So how important, first of all, is authenticity? And then secondly, how much of a sense of place? How important is a sense of place?
Well, I think just as you say, as a word, it's an interesting one, because what does it mean? Does it mean truly authentic? So if it's a Spanish restaurant, a Thai restaurant, does it have to be true to the authenticity of the cultural roots? Or is it authentic because it's true to the person and their own personality, which might not be very authentic at all? Or is it just that the concept, the idea, is just really good? It's just really good, and everything feeds off from it and is consistent with it, and that's authentic. So you take, I don't know, something crazy like concept Alice in Wonderland. It's fantasy, it's bonkers, it's crazy, but if everything is done really well, it doesn't really matter. It's not authentic or otherwise. I think going back to your point about location, you have to consider it. Every restaurant, particularly if you're working with a group, we've done 3 cricket restaurants now, but they're all different, because you can't just pick it up and put it somewhere else. Soho has a totally different vibe from Television Centre, which has a totally different vibe from Under the Arches, low, barfly low, slightly knocked back. Brixton, you just couldn't do the same thing everywhere, and you wouldn't want to either, would you?
I think, there are things that can give a sense of place that there's completely wrong. And they could be authentic, but they, again, completely wrong. For example, if you put a double-decker bus poster in a lobby of a hotel, it is authentic. For a London hotel, it is authentic, and it is sense of place, and it's soulful at the same time. So there are also other layers that you need to add. And the sophistication is very important, the storytelling, so it needs to have to be rooted somewhere if you want to have authenticity. And I think that's how you need to think. You need to think, as you said before, am I doing this collection? And is this collection? We're talking about, I'm talking about our practice. Would it be nice in another space, in another place, in a completely different location? And then if you think that it only is rooted where you have put it already, it means that you nailed, you hit the nail, I think.
I would say, since a place, I keep coming back to Rosewood because I'm doing quite a lot of stuff with them and it's on my mind continuously. But for instance, Martin Brunitsky's a big designer, great designer. He designed Scarf Spa and Holborn Dining at Rosewood, London. If you get the train up to the Balmoral in Edinburgh and you walk into the restaurant there, it's exactly the same. It's Scarf Spa and it's Holborn Dining. And I was with Olga Polizzi, who is in charge of the Roccaforte group. And I'm looking around at it, and I said, "This is Scarf Spa. This is," and she said, "Yeah." She said, "I wanted the same designer to do exactly the same thing." Rosewood are not happy about it, and that's what she's got. But it's not working as it is in London. So different location, same design, it doesn't really work because of that hotel. That's not what they're after. They do not want a gin bar. They want a whiskey bar. So
well, I mean, that opens up another interesting question then, where standalone experiences are one thing, but if you're a group, a hotel group, a restaurant group, whatever it may be, is it possible to cookie cut an experience across multiple locations? Or how do you then create a sense of consistency, or do you not have to worry about consistency?
I think you can have a certain amount of connectors that lets you know that you're in part of the family. There's something, it could be a material or a finish, it could be something about the brand. It certainly could be in the offer and the service style. But actually, the restaurant groups that we work with too, the menu's never the same either. Even within London, a market like London, north, south, east and west, they will vary it from small plates to large plates. This part of London doesn't like just sharing small plates. They want a big, it's mine, get your hands off, I'm not sharing it with you plates. How interesting that even down to that, the menu can be entirely different. It just makes life more interesting that way, doesn't it? But it's not to say that you wouldn't have some things that just tie it together as part of the family.
Well, I like that analogy of a family, so it's kind of, maybe it's better to be sort of second cousin twice removed as opposed to a twin.
Yeah, and you can be slightly dysfunctional, but if you do it well, it's okay.
I think you need to keep the character and the way you operate things and the way you approach your guests and everything, but you shouldn't really copy and move it somewhere else, because this is exactly, if you have pleased the guest in one location, the same guest would not be happy to come across exactly the same situation. They understand that it's a bit lazy. And, people need to see that they have been very well treated, and people, the designers and everybody involved have really give thought to something, and the quality is different. I don't think that they would appreciate to see the same hotel located somewhere else because it belongs to the same brand.
I mean, the gaucho restaurants at the moment. So everybody, if you've been to a gaucho restaurant, very dark, fur on the chairs, their flagships at the O2. They've noticed a dip in sales, so straight away they spent an absolute fortune redesigning all properties. They're rolling out a full design, and all of them are now going to be different. Instead of it being the same as before, very dark, as I said, the fur on the chairs and so on, it's totally different. The new one's just opened in Soho, very contemporary. Menu is the same across the board, so obviously touch on that. They want to keep the menu the same, so everybody knows you're at a gaucho, quality steaks and so on. But they're worried about being classed as a special occasion restaurant. So if you do go to the O2, you're possibly going to go and see a concert or something like that, or a show. You go to that restaurant, special occasion, but they want obviously people to be every night, they want to be in there. So that one at the O2 works, that will stay as it is. But as I said, all the others will roll out, totally different design, more contemporary, more relaxed, and they're hoping that's the way they'll get those profits back up.
I think that's the word, why the word chain is not a good word anymore.
Yeah.
Maybe a couple of years ago or many years ago, it would give you reassurance that the quality will be okay, because I know the brand. But now when you say something is chain, you don't mean something nice, I believe.
Well, I think it's quite
Unless it's Pret, and then you just know what you're
Yes,
getting.
of course.
I want to go back to you, Chan, because of course, before I went freelance, I was the editor of a design magazine. I know that experience of sitting down and you're thinking about content,
Yep.
and you might have experienced something, but it doesn't always translate to the
No.
pages of the magazine. And more often than not, you might pick something because it's got great pictures.
Yeah.
Is that true for you? Does the experience sometimes get lost in editorial, and do you often go with things based on the quality of visuals, for example?
If you're a good journalist, you don't have that problem. But what I would say is, how for me is, I'll have all these hotel brands who will pitch me their new hotels all across the world which are opening. I'll say, okay, send me some visuals. I'll have a look at the images and think, okay, that looks pleasing on the eye, looks good. Look into it a bit more, travel out, review the hotel, then have that experience. Because let's be honest, you have to be there to experience it. Then come away, and then I'll just choose the best images which will show my copy. You know, what I'm trying to get across in my review. And then go from there, sort of thing. So it is a bit of both. I mean, best picture without a doubt. I want to show the best picture. The only downside is when you have 10 magazines all showing the same image, it's a bit hard. You know, I don't want to keep repeating the same image. But many hotel brands will want to show, this is our Instagram, our favourite image, let's put that out there. But I try and mix it up a little bit. But, I mean, you have to... I receive a lot of emails where people are saying, you've been here, love the pictures, as I said before, can you connect us or can I travel out there? And then they will travel out there and they'll experience it for themselves. Celebrity Edge, perfect example. 4 of my readers are on there at the moment. They had travelled with Cunard before and this was their first cruise. They listened to my review and they wanted to see it. They went out there, absolutely loved it. And they said the pictures were great, but being here and experiencing it is totally different. So then it's a win-win, perfect.
Yeah. And then Melita, talking a little bit more about what Double Decker, of course, does as a practice, you also curate art exhibitions in gallery spaces in a slightly more traditional sense of artwork curation. Do you take any of the principles from curating an artwork collection in a gallery space where it really is about the experience and actually apply that to the work that you do with hospitality in hotels or restaurants?
I would say we take all of them. What we say in the studio very often is that when you go to a gallery or a museum and you see an exhibition, you go there and you know you're more open to get into the mood because you want to this particular artist, the idea or the umbrella, whatever the exhibition is about. So you're ready. Our challenge is to, in the hotel spaces or cruise ships or whatever it is, the viewer doesn't expect to see the collection. So you get them when they don't expect to see art. So they might not be so open to see a concept and follow a narrative. So we take everything and we add some more elements that, in order to cook the right recipe. But it's very similar to an exhibition. It's very similar the way you need to treat the artist also, the way, because apart from what the guests see, is the overall, the whole procedure behind when you brief artists, you commission work, or you find the ready work. So the whole thing is super similar, very similar.
And then Anna, of course, with Run for the Hills, I mean, as people have been able to see on the screens, you have a slew of amazing hospitality projects under your belt. I know you touched upon it a little bit earlier, but how important do you think design is in terms of the overall experience of these spaces? Is design more important than the food?
I think they are equally important. So we just ideally would be involved right from the outset, from finding the venue, because you're planning the design, not just the look, the final look that the customers see, but you're planning it operationally as well. So you're also planning how the kitchen's going to work, how the...
Sorry, we'll give it a minute. There's something happening, I think, on the other side.
Yeah, so we're designing not just for the customers, but also for the staff, for the team, for the chefs, for the waiters, for the front of house. How's it going to work as a flow for them? And actually, if you get it right for them, and you get it right for the customers, and it looks cool, and the food's amazing, or the drinks are amazing, it's just the coming together of all of that. But it's amazing how much work it is, how long it takes, how detailed it has to be, how many iterations you have to go through, the challenges of budgets. But I'd say it's really important, and we've got a few of our clients who did maybe their first venue themselves, and then they kind of come and say, it was probably a real mistake. And we'll just smile and say, it's okay, it happens, you know, but we can help you make the next one really good. And it's amazing on that process, you just relieve the stress from them, you take on all of the detail, and then it does show the difference. It really shows the difference.
And then moving from the intangible and storytelling, which we of course have discussed a bit, and to the tangible, as we start to think perhaps about experiences moving forward, how can design evolve to maybe be more interactive? And where does innovation come into that?
I've been trying to think about this, and one thought was just actually within the spaces themselves, that they could be opened up in a slightly more interesting way. So everyone has their downtime, don't they? Maybe lunch service is a bit quiet, so they just open for dinner. But I wonder if some of these amazing spaces could be opened up for something that's a bit more interactive as an experience, a cookery school, an event, or something that brings people up close and personal with the brand. Or could you customise your space or your PDR in some way? That might be quite nice.
From the artwork perspective, very, very often now clients ask for interaction pieces that, you know, the viewer is doing something and the piece is doing something, so they kind of communicate somehow. And as technology evolves, this is better, because a couple of years ago they were asking for pieces that they were doing something without knowing what, and they were broken. Most of the time they were out of order, so you would go to a place and you would see something that used to have light and doesn't do anything anymore, so it's a bit embarrassing. But I think art, of course, it follows the trends and follows everything and follows the technology and follows whatever, but sometimes it's good to leave it as it is and not go too crazy and too futuristic.
I mean, for the designers I'm speaking to, they're always trying to come up with the next idea to outdo somebody else to win that contract and so on. But for brands-wise, who are not spending money on refurbishing all day long, it's just the experience of the design. In something as easy as having your initials on your pillow when you check into a hotel room. Design, a little touch. People are like, oh my God, wow, they've got our initials on there. And obviously, if it's a couple staying there, they might get it right and put the right pillows on the right side. How did they know we sleep that way? Well, it was just a guess. It could have been the other way around. But that's the little things now for design, which I'm seeing, because the budget's not there to do a full refurbishment. They're just going to come up with other ways to try and flowers in a lobby. People are spending more money on flowers now because, again, they don't want to refurbish. They just don't have the money to refurbish. So that's one way. Uniforms for staff. They're thinking about that as a design and what people are wearing and so on. So it goes sense of place with all the hotels across the board. So.
And then last question from me before we see if anyone in the audience has anything they'd like to ask. But what role do you think design can play then in creating memorable moments? Or perhaps to hone that down a little bit, can you even think of some experiences yourselves or an experience where actually design has really made for something memorable?
I think for me, it's sometimes it's about a space, and it could be the design, it could be the lighting mood, it could be the music at the right level that takes me out of me in this moment, and then gives me an opportunity to be imaginative or to have an idea or to think about. You know, it actually it's conducive as much as anything. So sometimes that's all it is. It's a feeling.
I think it's very important when you feel that you can really relax in a space and don't feel that people look at you. You know, a welcoming space that you can work, you can relax, you can have a drink, and you forget everything else, and you can kind of feel like you're in a very private space without being in a private space. I think that's a very important thing, and that has to do with service also. If people really care, and make the effort to kind of not only ask you what you want in terms of, you know, an order, but just give you a glass of water and then let you order whenever you're ready. So something a bit more gentle when it comes to service.
For me, service, design, checking into a hotel room and being left alone is quite nice. You know, I don't want the phone ringing. I just want to, turn off, be comfortable, be absolutely comfortable like you are at home. For me, that is key. I mean, luxury brands, great service, are doing really well. One thing that I experienced recently, which is what the hotels are doing now to get that client. And it comes down to money, of course, and all that, but people have the money to pay this, okay? So if I flew to Antigua recently with a hotel brand, it was all taken care of. I could never afford to do this. They send the butler to the house from the hotel brand, who opens the door for the car, gets in the car with you, off you go to the airport, you get handed over, you land the other side. Not the same butler, but a butler in exactly the same uniform will meet you the other side and then take you to your hotel. So the experience is starting at your front door, not at the airport. It's crazy, it's crazy. But that's what all the hotels now, brands are starting to do. Accor, for instance, have 35 brands at the moment. And I was with the Novotel team last night, and they're trying to move from mid-scale to luxury. And I'm like, but Novotel is business, it's mid-scale. And they said, oh no, you come and have a look at our Canary Wharf property, which is absolutely stunning. And if it took a Novotel badge off it, you could pass it as a Four Seasons, honestly, it's just stunning. So for me, design now across the board is the way forward.
Great, well, lots of food for thought there. Does anyone have any questions that they would like to ask the panel? If not, then a very quick plug. In an hour's time, there will be the very last session of Design Talks for this season with Crafts Council, who will be talking about their Hot House programme of supporting emerging talent within the field. But in the meantime, if you can join me in saying thank you to our panel, Anna, Melita and Chan.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.